I hope you're ready to play with some more decimals today. We will start with a number story that I want you to write down in your math journal. So go grab your supplies and meet me back here and let's jump into decimals together. Hopefully you've already gotten this written down, and I want you to even pause the video, see if you can work through this one on your own, and then come back and check your answer with me. All right, you know me, I love to draw bar models to help me kind of see pictorially what's going on here. So I do know that the thickness of the large brick, which I labeled brick number 1, maybe I should label as large brick, 4 centimeters, and the thickness of the small brick is 1 807 centimeters less than the large brick. What is the combined thickness of the 2 bricks? So we are looking for the total combined thickness, but we need to know how to find brick number 2 or our small brick. In fact, I will relabel these. That will probably be a little better for us. Okay, so our large and our small. You may already know that we need to take our large brick and subtract our 1 807 thousandths, right? Because it's 1 807 thousandths less than the large brick. So we need to find the difference of these two. And there's my zeros to kind of hold those places there. All right, what did you get when you subtracted here? Yep. Hopefully you got 2 193 thousandths. So what does this represent? Yeah, this represents the thickness of this small brick. So I'm going to write it right in here. Oops. Two and 193 thousandths. Now, to find the combined thickness, I'm just going to add my 4 and my 293 thousandths together. Again, my zeros as placeholders there. And I'm just going to add normally my thousandths together, my hundredths, my tenths, and now my ones. Now again, remember how important it is to line up our decimals when we are adding or subtracting. So I want to make sure I'm working with the correct place value. I'm adding my tenths to my tenths, not to my hundredths or thousandths, right? All right, so our combined thickness looks like it is 6 and 193 thousandths centimeters. Let's start here. So without doing any calculations, my question for you is, will the product, let's start with actually this one right here. Will the product of 3 and 7 be greater than 3 or less than 3? So would the product, which is the answer, be greater than or less than 3? Yeah, greater than, because we know 3 times 7 is 21, right? Okay, so now if I took my 3 and multiplied it by 7/10, would now, oops, I don't need multiplication, I need an equal sign. Now, would my product be greater than or less than 3? Okay, so I have 7/10. Can you imagine 7/10, 7 of my 1/10 place value discs? And I want 3 times as many. Yeah, your answer is going to be 2 and 1/10. It'll be 21 tenths, but we know that 21 tenths equals 2 wholes and 1/10 left over, right? Okay, so if I were to show you my 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, right? But I want 3 groups of them, right? 3 groups. Let's do this. Now, can you see if I keep adding here, 7 more, and then 1 more group of 7, right? Let's see if I have 7 here. Uh-oh. Let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, let me grab a couple more here. Five, 6, and 7. So now we have our 3 groups of 7, but we know that 21 tenths, also if we trade these out, so 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10, my 10 tenths will give me 1 whole, right? If I take 10 more, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 10 1/10 is going to give me another whole. So this is going to be my answer, 2 and 1/10, which we see over here, right? So my answer is going to be less than 3. Now, this is going to be helpful in identifying, again, correct answers when we're multiplying decimals. It's going to help us look at it and go, oh, is that reasonable or not? What will help you moving forward is knowing if this number is greater than 1, then our product is going to be greater than this number. If our number is less than 1, which we see right here, our product is going to be less than this number. All right? So let's practice with this one. What if I gave you 3 and 4/10, and we're going to multiply it by 7? Is my answer going to be greater or less than 3 and 4/10? It is. It's going to be greater because this number is greater than 1. Okay, so let me give you a couple more. All right, my question's going to be the same. Is my product going to be greater than or less than 3 and 4/10? Well, we're going to look over here. We're multiplying it by a number less than 1. Okay, so if it's less than 1, my product is going to be less than 3.4. Okay, let's look at this one now. Is my product going to be greater than or less than 3 and 4/10? Is this number greater or less than 1? It's greater than 1, barely, right? Just barely, but it is greater than 1. So my answer is going to be greater than 3 and 4/10. I also want us to remember the strategy we learned in our last lesson. So if I multiply 3 and 4/10 times 10, what's going to happen to our decimal? I want a number that's 10 times the size of this. Our decimal is going to move over 1 place, and it's going to give us 34. Okay. Now over here, I just want 1/10 of this number. What's going to happen to my decimal? My decimal is going to move to the left 1 spot. So my answer is going to be 34 hundredths. Okay, so all these different strategies are going to help us in identifying a reasonable answer or not when we're, again, multiplying our decimals. All right, we're going to try this one now. All right, we're going to multiply 63 by 2 and 5/10. And we can also write it like this. We're going to multiply these two together. Now, I always highly recommend for us to estimate first. So we're going to round these numbers and then estimate kind of what our answer should be close to. All right, so I can do something as easy as, well, I'm going to round my 63 to 60. And I'm going to multiply that by, this is 2 and 5/10, but I'm going to multiply this. See, since I brought this one down, maybe I'll increase this to 3. So 60 times 3 is going to give me 180. Okay, so that would be a good estimate. So I can do something like You know, my curvy lines mean approximately 180. Could I have put a 2 there instead? Yeah, I could have done 60 multiplied by 2, and that would have helped me with an estimate also. So now when we go to multiply, what we're going to do is we're going to want to multiply whole numbers. But I see a number with a decimal right here. Is there a number you think that we can multiply 2 5/10 by to give us a whole number? Think of our strategies of multiplying by a 10, 100, 1/100. Yeah, we can multiply this one by 10. Okay, so I'm going to keep my 63 because that's a whole number. And then I have 2 5/10, and if I multiply that by 10, I'm going to get 25. Okay, now at home, I want you to work through 63 times 25. Then meet me back here and we'll check our answers together. All right, did you get 1,575? Is that our correct answer? Well, if I go to look at my estimate in this, I'm like, nope, I am way off. So if I multiply this by 10 here, now I need to go back into my answer and either multiply it by 1/10 or divide by 10, right? Either one of those methods will work. So if I multiply by 1/10, what happens to my decimal? It moves back over one space. So my answer should be 157 5/10. Now does that look a little bit closer to my estimate here? Yes. So an estimate is going to be really helpful, making sure that decimal is in the right spot. I want to show you another method using our area model, and you may have worked with this when you're multiplying whole numbers together. Well, it also works when we're multiplying decimals. So I'm going to take my 63, so I have 6 10s or 60, and then I have 3 1s. So I'm going to split that into my 60 and my 3. Okay, so that's what I took this right here. And the value of it is 60 and 3, which is 63. Now I'm going to do the same with my 2 5/10 here. So I have 2 wholes and I have 5/10. Okay. Now with an area model, if you're not familiar with it, I'm going to multiply each of these together to find my answer. So 60 times 2 is going to give us 120. 3 times 2 is going to give me 6. 60 times 5/10. We can also look at this as 1/2, right? 5/10 also equals 1/2. So 60 times a half, or a half of 60, is going to give me 30. And then I have 5/10 times 3, or a half of 3, 1 5/10. So see how we did that? We multiplied each of those, 60 times 2, 3 times 2, 60 times 5/10, and then we had our 3 times 5/10 to find our answers. So now, what do you think we're going to do with all of our answers here? We're going to add them together. We have 120, 6, 30, and 1 5/10. Again, make sure you get all these in the correct place value, and we should get, phew, good, 157 5/10. Our area model shows when we go to multiply, we need to multiply our 60 by our 2 and by our 5/10, as well as our 3 by our 2 and our 3 by our 5/10 also. So this is kind of a fun, different method you could use also. All right, our final problem here. We're going to multiply 7 4/10 by 3 9/10. So I'm going to line them up like this. Again, I don't have to, when I'm multiplying with decimals, I don't need to be so conscious of lining up the decimals right, because we're not adding or subtracting straight down. But what I do want to do is be multiplying numbers without the decimals. So 7 4/10, what do I need to multiply it by to get that decimal out of there? Or move the decimal, right, to create a whole number? If I multiply it by 10, I'm going to get 74. How about 3 9/10? Yep, the same thing. If I multiply that by 10, I'm going to get 39. So now I'm multiplying my 74 and my 39. Again, pause the video, work through it, and meet me back to check your answer. All right, did you get 2,886? Yes. Oh, do you know what we forgot to do? We forgot to estimate first. You might have already done it, but let's estimate these two numbers. So let's round 7 4/10. You want to round it up or down? Not being a 4, why don't we round it down? So I have 7, and I'm multiplying my 7 by, I have 3 9/10. Sure, let's round it to 4. All right, 7 times 4 is 28. So this is going to be our estimate. It should be close to 28, right? Well, is 2,886 close to 28? No, it certainly isn't. But we see I multiplied each of these by 10. So what must I do now to my answer over here? Well, what's 10 times 10? 100, right? So now I need to multiply this by 1/100th or divide it by 100. Okay, so each one of them is 10 times the amount. So because of that, 10 times 10 does equal 100. So now I need to divide it by 10 or multiply it by by 100. Divide by 100 or multiply by 1/100th. So what's going to happen to our decimal? It's going to move over twice, which looks like that is very close to our estimate, isn't it? So our final answer should be 28 86/100. Now that we've worked through it, I want you at home to practice with that area model. So go ahead and use these numbers here and do the area model before you jump into your homework today. All right, and have a great day. I'll see you back here next time. Bye-bye.